We're going to be studying now from a test lesson from Rabash, with Rabash. We're going to be reading in the study of Sefirot, Part 2, Part 5, Volume 2, Part 5. We are in the Inner Light, Part 6, starting with the words, know that this is the essence of those records. Beforehand, we will read together from the study of Sefirot, Volume 2, Part 5. We will be reading the words of the Ari in item 6. The words of the Ari. Now, then if wanted to bring the externality of the inner as zon rise up in that place, keter, in the end of the upper roots, and cannot be there together, since he is greater than them. Therefore, they remain in its place, and it rises to the place of the root of Malchut. And then the root of Malchut as well rises to the root of Yesod. There both remain in the Yesod, which is Zon, and then the root of the upper Keter bestows below, after there is already a preparation for the lower ones to receive. And then the Nukva of the Keter is included in the male. We will move to Rabash's lesson.
If I studied that in the vessels of the first expansion, the vessels of Gilgalta, the last phase is lost, meaning the vessel of extension called the screen. What is the last phase? Up to here, the light can reach, till phase 4. Meaning, it could receive on 4 measures of coarseness. In Ab, what is the last phase? Up to 3 phases. No more. In Sag, the screen can reach phase 2. Every degree has its own last phase. When we speak of Patzuf Galgalta, what was his last phase? 4. We say 4 of extension didn't remain in the first extension of the vessels of Galgalta. Is that clear? Now I say the same thing. No, that just as the record of the vessels of Galgalta in the first expansion remained, there's also a screen that ascends from one degree to the next. This screen is incorporated from all the records. So know that it also wasn't incorporated from phase 4. Why? Even the vessels themselves, it didn't remain. Student, what didn't remain
there? The vessel of extension.
Yes. It's written that there's a record in Malchut of what she had, that the light of Malchut, he can call it direct light, meaning direct light as its own light. Its own light is called receiving in order to receive, and that's not existence. It's not there. That's why they say, what light is the light of Malchut? Reflected light. But there's 2 things. It has the light of Nefesh. I'm not calling it direct light from a different reason. But now we're speaking of direct light. That's another matter. I'm speaking about the light, and here of extending the vessels, it's 2 things. We say that Malchut of phase 4 extended the vessel of Keter. But what light did she have? The light of Nefesh. The light of Nefesh from the vessel of Keter. What did the light of Nefesh have? The light of Nefesh. The light she received is called the light of Nefesh by her reflected light. But that's already extending. That's light. So what am I saying? What do I mean by the last phase being lost? The vessel of extension, that does not remain. No. That the essence of those records contained in the screen are the very coarseness of the phase 3 that remained from the level of Chokhmah, and coarseness from phase 4 from the perspective of clothing, which remaining from the level of Keter. What does he say here? He tells us that the essence of those records contained in the screen are 4-3. Why did we say that it was incorporated from all the records? So, what is the answer? The records from the levels that are lower than them are incorporated in the upper records. That's why who is that upper phase? 4. Why does he think it's 3? The answer is that it's a different type from the clothing of 4, but coarseness of 3. So we find that the upper phase and the lower one are incorporated in the lower records. That's why he mentions that the Ta'amim are called Keter, Nekudot Chokhmah. Nekudot are also Bina and Zon. We're only speaking about the higher phase. Or maybe he means the first look and the second look. The first look is called Ta'amim. The second look is called Nekudot. In the Nekudot we have how many couplings? Gimel Bet Aleph, 3, 2, 1, and root. But it's only one phase. One look in Keter. Second look, we said that the record starts from the screen when it refines. So he asks, how can the record of clothing be refined? So there's an allegory. He says that in the Ta'amim of Ab, when the degree of Keter of Ab illuminates, there was phase 4 of clothing, phase 3 of coarseness. So he says that everything phase 4 of clothing could illuminate is only what was incorporated of phase 3 of coarseness. That's why when phase 3 of coarseness refined, also the clothing could happen and also refined. For what reason? Because of the coarseness that was refined. So who was the cause that the clothing, that it could not use the clothing? Because phase 3 refined. Clothing without coarseness cannot extend anything. What phase 3 is there? 3 of 4.
Where?
In Parzuf Galgalta.
Yes.
Parzuf Ab is only 3. You can say 3 came, 3 and 4. What does every phase receive from the phase against it? So we can say, where does Ab gets its phase 3? From phase 3 of Galgalta. But it's not like phase 3 and 4 and then 3, meaning phase 3 in the vessel of Dalet. In the vessel of Keter, it's only Chokhmah, it's 2 things. That's why every phase receives from the phase against it. So which receives from 3? From 4, that 3 and 4. What are the upper phases? The lower ones obviously ascend, there's nothing to mention here. But after they join one after the other, all the details, so he says a bit yes and a bit no. We'll see that in a few more pages. you should know that these two above-mentioned records, although the level of Keter is far higher than the level of Chokhmah, can still be a single degree, but with a distinction of male and female. This is because if it's higher, so how can I say that they're in 1 degree? This is because the record of the level of Keter, called clothing, is only half a record. Moreover, it lacks that most important half. It is already presented above that each record is discerned by 2. A record of extension and a record of clothing. This means that the measure of a level is measured by the measure of coarseness in the screen. How much can the coarseness of the screen be used in order to bestow? Where the coarsest draws a higher level. However, since the higher level needs a more refined vessel, we come to find 2 opposite ends in each level, set one atop the other. On one hand, the greater level must have the coarsest screen, and vessel, which are the vessels of extension for the great level. On the other hand, it must have the most refined vessels of reception to fit the clothing of the greatest light. Hence, each of these records that remained from the first expansion come to Parzuf of Galgalta is evaluated by the 2 above halves. The record of extension and the record of clothing. Know that the record of extension is the most important, since the upper coupling is made on it, and the reflected light that connects and clothes the upper light in the Parzuf rises from it. He gave us
an introduction. If so, what do we have? From the explanation, you can thoroughly understand why the record of the level of Keter of the most highest degree, with the record of the level of Chokhmah, are considered male and Nukva, and both are at 1 level. It seems very puzzling, since it is known that male and female should be in equivalence with one another. Otherwise, how will they have contact with each other? And how will they affect and receive from one another? Here, the male will be from the level of Keter, and the female from the level of Chokhmah. And the merit of Keter is known to be far greater than Chokhmah. We learned that the record of the level of Keter is only half of the record, and its weaker half too since it is unfit to draw the light on its own, while the record of phase 3 is a complete record, both from the perspective of the extension and from the perspective of the clothing. Hence, you find that the complete record of phase 3 equalizes with the half record of the level of Keter. The level of Keter. Understand that and remember it well through the rest here. What is he telling us here? What was the question? How can Keter and Chokhmah be in equal quality? He describes the Keter itself cannot be. It's half a record. It's the weakest of all. It cannot choose a thing. If the vessel must receive incorporation from Chokhmah, hence they're equal. He comes from the deficiency, from the lack that he has from extension, whereas 3 does not need the vessel of phase 4. It has everything. Oh. We will explain below. We'll explain below how these male and female connect with the screen in Malchut of the Rosh in one coupling because of their ascent there. By this, they return and draw the expansion of the upper light to the Partzuf once more. This is named the second expansion, of Partzuf Ab. It is written, when it is not mate, or expanding in Keter, it is because the male, female of Keter rise up. Then the root of the upper Keter bestows below. What does he mean? It is as we said above, that when it is not mate in Keter, meaning in the first expansion, which is generally called the Partzuf of Keter, the phase of male and female rise from that level of Keter. The male is discerned as the record of Keter, of the level of Keter, and the female is discerned as the record of Chokhmah, of that level of Keter. They ascend under the Malchut of the Rosh and are renewed there in a new coupling, as he explains henceforth. So we need to start with the beginnings of the words, they remain in his place. And the two of them remained. Rabash is saying it's the second line above. They remain in his place. And he rises to the place of the root of Malchut. Who? They are the records. The records remain in the place of Keter. And he, the light of Keter, rises to the place of the root of Malchut. And then also the root of Malchut also rises to the root of Yesod. Here you must know this rule, that the ascent of the branches, there are no places, only what? Which means the refinement of the coarseness in them causes the ascent of their roots. According to this, if we say the refinement of the coarseness, is this called an ascent? We learned there's no refinement in the Rosh. How is there an ascent in the roots? So he explains the rule. Here you must know this rule, that ascent of the branches, which means the refinement of the coarseness in them, causes the ascent of their roots as well. even though the refinement does not happen in the roots, which are the 10 Sefirot of the Rosh, still the ascent of the roots is extended from the refinement in the branches themselves. This is because the branches relate to the roots as the actual to the potential. In fact, they are one entity, and the actual has only what is in the potential. Hence, if there is any manifestation of the branches, which are the Sefirot of the Guf, that manifestation must first appear in the 10 Sefirot of the roots. Thus, it is true that this matter of the refinement and departure of the lights from their clothing in the vessels cannot occur in the 10 Sefirot of the Rosh, since the clothing of lights in the vessels is only in potential there. However, the matter of the ascent of the place of the coupling is certainly there. But it occurs because of the ascent of the branches there. What is the question? What is the answer? It's written here. The root of Malchut also rises to the root of Yesod. So he's asking, after all, what is an ascent? The refinement of the screen from one place to another place. This refinement is not in the Rosh, but rather only in the Guf. However, we must say that everything there is in the Guf must first be in the Rosh. But in the end, it's correct that all that is in actuality must beforehand be in potential. But what is the refinement? What is the ascent? One point is missing here. Because the upper one needs the lower one, and what the lower one can receive. Hence, we say that the lower one has the refinement of the screen, meaning it can no longer receive phase 4 or phase 3, and the upper one remains in its phase 4 in it, but he needs to give to the lower one a smaller degree for the lower one. It does this coupling, not for itself, meaning it remains in Galgalta, in level of Keter, but since now the records have ascended, that they cannot receive level 4, only 3, hence the upper one must perform a coupling as if it rose up. So as if it was refined. For who? For the sake of the lower one. After all, it's impossible to be what's in actuality without it first being in potential. This is the meaning of not just about the refinement. The intention is for the light, not the negative, but only the positive. His concept is among the most important in this wisdom. The Ari elaborates on this matter below in all its details. But here he speaks in general. He says that the ascent of Zon, 2 records of the level of Keter of the Guf, to below Malchut of the Rosh. This is that the records of the level Keter rose below Malchut of the Rosh into the place of Keter, causes the incorporation of the light of Keter in the vessels of Malchut of the Rosh. These two incorporates are incorporation of the Zon of Keter of the Guf under Malchut of the Rosh in the place of the light of Keter of the Guf. And the incorporation of the light of Keter of the Guf in the vessel of Malchut herself, they cause the root of Malchut, meaning the screen contained in the vessel of Malchut of the Rosh, to rise to the place of the root of Yesod, meaning the coarseness of phase 3. But why are we missing this? What are we missing here? But the root of Yesod did not rise above Tuhod. Only both remain in their place.